Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. A new Native-owned retail shop in San Diego sells exclusively Native-made products, from clothing to skincare. And a Dene designer in Santa Fe is working to heighten the visibility of Native-owned businesses in Santa Fe this holiday season. Those are among entrepreneurs making a go of it during the heaviest retail time of the year. We'll hear from them and others about what it takes to make it in the business world. That's coming up after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Brian Bowles, sitting in for Antonia Gonzalez. For the last few months, Navajo Nation leaders have been butting heads over who is its official controller, the person responsible for handling the tribe's finances. Navajo Nation President Boo Nygren tried firing that top official. As KJZZ's Gabriel Pietrorazio reports, that dispute is now over.
Sean McCabe has been reaffirmed as the sole lawful controller through a legally binding stipulation between him and Nygren, which also orders McCabe to be back paid and covers his attorney fees. Nygren recently apologized for sending profanity-laced texts leaked by McCabe to council delegates.
I use language that I shouldn't have. In moments of great stress, we don't always act as our best selves. This was one such occasion for me.
The October exchange preceded his sudden termination. Screenshots show Nygren pressured McCabe to unlock his government-issued purchase card, but McCabe told him there's no budget. Nygren reiterates that his agreement with McCabe isn't a compelled admission of any unlawful action or wrongdoing. For National Native News, I'm Gabriel Pietrorazio.
A program that helps voters in indigenous coastal communities use buoys to track weather conditions wrapped up another season this fall. Advocates of the Backyard Buoys program says it increased safety for fishermen in western Alaska and helped hunters in Alaska's Arctic land whales. Alaska desk reporter Alona Knighton has more.
Several years ago, 7 boaters went missing in the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta region and were never found. The loss motivated residents to find ways to better understand their changing waterways. Nalokok is an organization that integrates indigenous knowledge into research in the region. The company joined a nationwide initiative called the Backyard Buoys Project and deployed 3 buoys in the area for the first time this year. Lynn Marie Church is Nalokok's chief executive officer.
We wanted to understand what was going on in our ocean, in our waterways, especially with the changes in the environment that we've seen over the past 10 years.
Backyard Buoys Project helps indigenous coastal communities in Alaska, as well as the Pacific Northwest and Pacific Islands, support maritime activities. Buoys track wave height, temperature, and barometric pressure in real time. Residents can see that information in an app and decide whether it is safe to travel. Church says that using the Backyard Buoys app has been easy.
When you look at where the locations are, it's not by latitude and longitude, it's by place names. That's how we learn in rural Alaska.
Sean Gleason is the head of research and development at Nalokok.
We picked locations where people travel for subsistence or daily travel.
The goal was also to spread out those buoys so communities in different parts of the region can use the data.
There's no one community. Everyone's related.
In Alaska's Arctic, the project has been ramping up as well. The Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission facilitated the installment of buoys in 6 communities this year. Martin Edwardson is the commission's coordinator for the project and is also a whaling co-captain.
I was looking at the app and seeing that the waves weren't too big in the general area where we were headed, so we went out that way and we successfully harvested a whale and brought it back to our community to feed.
The Whaling Commission is now looking for translators to allow users of the Backyard Buoys app see information in their native language. In Anchorage, I am Alona Knighton.
And in a previous broadcast, we said the Wounded Knee Massacre was observing its 130th anniversary this December. Actually, it's the 135th anniversary. We apologize for the error. For National Native News, I'm Brian Bull.
National Native News is produced by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
The Indian Arts and Crafts Board promotes Indian artists of federally recognized tribes through its online source directory. Information on this no-charge opportunity available at doi.gov/IACB, who support this program.
Skugtash. For more than 40 years, Ramona Farms has revived ancient traditional foods, tepary beans, pinoli, polentas, and more, all from store.ramonafarms.com. Ramona Farms supports this show. Domye.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Ruth Ann Thorne has a collection of successful galleries and added a new one in a historic part of San Diego, California recently. She'll talk to us today about the prospects for Native-owned retail business right now. Diné designer Amy Dinetdeel is also a shop owner. She is in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where she discovered Native business owners are a very low percentage of the overall retail options there. We'll find out her outlook on this busy retail time of year. And Jeremy Arvizo is a designer who collaborates with major brands. He has his finger on the pulse of what the retail market is all about. We'll speak with all three Native business owners about what it takes to be in business right now. We'll also hear about the importance of patronizing Native-owned businesses. What Native brands are on your list this holiday season? Let us know. You can join us with comments and questions by calling 1-800-996-2848. That is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Joining us now while traveling abroad is Amy Dinetdeel. She is the founder of For Kinship. She is Diné. Amy, hello, and welcome back to Native America Calling.
Hi there. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's awesome to have you on the show. Joining us from San Diego, California is Ruth Ann Thorne. She is an entrepreneur and owner of Native Star. She is a citizen of the Rincon Band of Luiseño Indians. Ruth Ann, good morning and welcome to Native America Calling.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And our third guest joins us from New York, Jeremy Arvizo. He is an artist, designer, and entrepreneur. He is Diné, Hopi, Akimel Otham, and Tohono Otham. Jeremy, welcome back to Native America Calling.
Good morning. It's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have all of you on the show today. Can't wait to get the conversation started. And Amy, I want to begin with you. You recently opened your For Kinship storefront in Santa Fe. Tell us more. What does a Native entrepreneur need to know before embarking into retail?
One of the most important things I've learned, in addition to having retail, is to also have e-commerce. I think especially in times like, 2025, when the economy is kind of up and down, it's really good to have that balance, just to have both things going at the same time. But we're thrilled. We just opened a new space over on the south side of town. That's a 2,400 square foot modern space that it's a retail store. It's a gathering space. It's a great space for us to have workshops and fashion shows. So really, really excited about this new opportunity in Santa Fe.
Well, it sounds really, really exciting. And you also have a drive for fostering and encouraging Native talent. And you recently developed a list of Native shop owners there in the Santa Fe area. What did you learn about the Native business environment by creating that list?
Well, I think one of the first things was just actually owning a store and having customers come in every day and kind of being my own data collector. They didn't really know, which shops in Santa Fe are Native owned and operated and which are non-Native selling Native goods. So it just kind of got me inspired to really create a list that kind of connected us all, because I feel like, once there's a guide, people are going to specifically go to an authentic seller. So we came up with this campaign called Native Owned Santa Fe. We distributed flyers all around town at concierge desks, just so those concierge could direct people to Native-owned stores, and also place some ads in local papers to promote it. But yeah, we're super psyched about it because it really pulls together that retail community where we can all kind of be there for each other.
And Amy, what was the methodology you used for creating? I mean, you just go around and knock on doors and walk into businesses and say, "Hey, are you native owned?" Or how did you identify these businesses?
Yeah, I mean, Santa Fe is a pretty small town, so somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. We're all connected because we all show up at the same events, so we kind of know who each other are. And we really wanted to focus on those stores that are open during business hours, like real brick and mortar stores. So I think it ended up being like, 0.5% out of the 11,000 businesses in Santa Fe, and specifically those that are open during business hours. So we just wanted, like, if a tourist comes to Santa Fe, we wanted them to be able to go there and have that shopping experience.
Now, were you able to identify any barriers that exist there for Native business owners?
I think one of the first things for me, and this is because I work with a lot of Next Gen, is the idea of, some type of financial support for design incubator funds. That's something that we really want to put some effort into in the future, because it is really a higher rent compared to a lot of places in New Mexico, of being able to help out these young businesses and artisans get their first brick and mortar. We're also offering space within our store, because it's a pretty big store, where we can offer space where artists make 100% back of the profits, just so they get that money to reinvest in themselves. And the hope is that we have more and more small businesses opening up with young people that really want to, be entrepreneurs in the homelands or near the homelands.
Now, what's been the feedback so far? Are you finding that there was a demand there? A lot of people specifically interested in supporting Native businesses, that now they're able to do that because of this list?
Yeah, I think it's just like connecting with the people that have come into my retail space or talking to people at the different events. They're thrilled to know that these businesses exist, because they really didn't have any guide of which are Native owned and which aren't. And so I think it's just a really important message to get out and possibly expand this statewide, because I think it just adds another, level of authenticity when a Native person is representing our own artists and able to curate, to make sure the things that are sold are things that should be sold, and like really make sure these are things that we want out in the marketplace. That's like just a really wonderful thing to be able to work as a community that way.
Now, you shared earlier you work to elevate young Native artists. Where do you see the representation right now for Native arts since you moved to Santa Fe?
Where do I see it? I think it's just, on this huge trajectory straight up. We're getting so much notice and attention because the design level is just off the hook. I mean, like Jeremy's going to be on the call in a little bit. I mean, that level of talent that's really showcased out in the world right now. I just think there's so much opportunity, but it's just having more space, because we're so creative. We can create the economy, but we have to have these locations and these spaces to really get us in the game. It's like moving past just doing wholesale to actually be able to represent ourselves in our own businesses is really the place of the future.
Amy, you've spent almost 40 years in the fashion industry, and you really understand just how it all works. But what did it take for you to make that break and become an independent designer and business owner like you are?
Yeah, I think it just came to the point of wanting to kind of be able to mold a business based on my values. I think the pillars of my brand are reciprocity, legacy work, conscious consumerism, and joy. Those four things together, and that's kind of like a hard fit in the corporate world. So I think that was a big portion for me. In order to honor my indigeneity, it was really to start and decolonize all the things that I'd learned all those years of working in corporate business. I mean, there's definitely some really positive things on learning how to create wealth, but the joyfulness for me is being able to create that wealth and reinvest it back into my community. I mean, taking money every month and purchasing things directly from our Native community, and then being able to, consistently support that, that's to me something that is in my wildest dreams, to be able to do that with business. So just excited about the future and, just creating more opportunities. I think that we invest pretty heavily within the outdoor recreation area with all the stuff we do in the skateboard community. But in the future, we're just really looking to expand that idea of how can we give back? How can we really reinvest in this next generation?
How much of your business relies on this time of year? And do you have any sense yet or gauge on how this year is going to compare to previous years?
Yeah, I think just in general, we're way down like the entire country right now because the economy has been so challenging this year between, tariffs and the craziness going on in Washington, D.C. I think it's been kind of all over the place, with people not really feeling comfortable spending. So we've just pivoted. We've done a lot more of the work this year in actually doing nonprofit work in areas of giving back, just through grant writing and all the different things you need to do in that part of the world. Just continuing to create kind of small, one-of-a-kind pieces that can be out in the world and really present unique fashion perspectives for people that want to buy.
And the breakdown between your e-commerce business and bricks and mortar, is it 50-50 or does it sway one way or the other?
Yeah, it kind of sways. Like right now, it's probably 70 e-commerce, 30, in store, but that's only because it's the holiday season. So many people shop from us online. But in the summer months, we have these like big surges of tourism in Santa Fe. So then it's probably the other direction, 70% in store and 30% online. So that's the importance, for all the young entrepreneurs out there, is to have that balance, between both things. And it's a great way that you really never have to worry about having a brick and mortar if you have a consistent and strong web business.
Native retail business owners on our show today talking about the opportunities and also the challenges perhaps in being a retail business owner here in 2025 and around this time of year when retail business is especially busy. And phone lines are open for anyone who would like to join the conversation. Maybe you are a Native small business owner or you just like to support Native small business, especially this time of year. Give us a call, share your insights, share your thoughts, share your perspectives. 1-800-996-2848. Randy Taylor first made a name for himself in professional rodeo as a bronc rider. He eventually turned to broadcasting and became the voice of rodeo coverage for decades, winning this year's Pro Rodeo Cowboys Association Excellence in Broadcast Journalism Award. We'll talk with Taylor about his life and accomplishments on the next Native America Calling.
Repatriation is the return of ancestors and stolen culture. The Association on American Indian Affairs is hosting the 11th annual Repatriation Conference, Feeding the Fire, Advancing the Movement, in February 2026. This fully virtual conference will offer small group interactive workshops, strategies, networking, and more to advance domestic and international repatriation. More at Indian-Affairs.org. The association supports this show.
We're glad you're with us today on Native America Calling. It's that time of year when the desire to spend a little extra money on loved ones competes with the balance in your checking account. And we're hearing from Native retail business owners today about what this season means to their bottom lines. You can join us. Call 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. You can share an insight. You can ask a question. Again, the number 1-800-996-2848. Let's speak now with Ruth Ann Horn. She is an owner and entrepreneur. Her business is named Native Star. And Ruth Ann, this business, it's the newest one in the Gaslamp Quarter, and that is a historic theater and entertainment district in San Diego, California. What drew you to this area?
Well, it's a really interesting history in the gas lamp in downtown San Diego. For those who have visited San Diego, it's really kind of the primetime downtown location. And it was established in the mid-1800s, right during the same time that the Indian Removal Act was happening and the reservations were created. And another kind of a fun fact about San Diego is that we have more tribes collectively in San Diego County than anywhere else in the United States. So we have 18 federally recognized tribes, and we all share San Diego County as our home. So with that kind of a background, it's also a little bit sad, but we are the very first Native American owned and Native store in the gas lamp since the inception, since we were pushed off the land completely. The gas lamp, if you go to the Historical Society, you can find signage that said, right on the gas lamps, Indians wanted $25 dead or alive. So we were not allowed there. So the significance of opening something like Native Star for me personally is about land back. It's about this idea that we've been pushed out of certain areas, pretty much all areas, and now we're reclaiming our rightful space on our own historical lands there. So that's a little background on Native Star.
That's really fascinating. And again, going back to this history, reclaiming the space, what's been the response so far? What is the feedback of people who are stopping in? And do they get it? Do they understand that this isn't just a retail space? This is actually a statement for Native American identity and sovereignty, I think, perhaps.
Well, the store itself has been created as more of a modern space. We're working really hard to really remove stereotypes. And so unlike some places where you go, say, for instance, Santa Fe, where you're going to find a lot of really traditional items, which are fantastic, we've moved into a little bit more of a modern space. So there are a few, traditional items, but I'd say 98% of what we're carrying there is modern creators. So Native people who are bringing whatever, if it's fashion or jewelry or even, traditional food items into more of a contemporary light. So with that said, people walk in, the first thing they see is a map, and it shows all of the federally recognized tribes that are still in existence today. So that kind of sets the stage. All of our employees are all from Native tribes. I mean, we didn't, we obviously, will hire anyone who wants to be part of it, but it just so happens we have all Native kids working there. So between their ability to communicate the significance of Native creators in the store and this big map, people have really been kind of curious and also very excited to support us.
Well, tell us more about the different types of art and products that you sell. I know our other guest, Jeremy Arvizo, is one of your featured artists.
He is, and he's one of our favorites. He's also participated in a fashion show recently. So we are now celebrating about 7 months. We'll be going on 8 months in business. So we're a startup, and we really have done a great job, I feel like, collectively with my whole group there, of finding some of the top, designers in Indian country. So, Patricia Michaels, we have Cody Sanderson, Red House for Bitter Water, lots of, obviously, Jeremy's original landlords, Thunder Voice Hat Company, Sky Eagle. So a lot of the ones that we know and we see walk the fashion runway all over. But also we're bringing in people who are unknown that maybe don't have an opportunity to bring in a lot of resources. Maybe they're from a smaller tribe and they find us. So we have a submission process. We do have some art. We have Cara Romero. We have some of her, we have a lot of actually art, but our primary focus is fashion. And I feel that that is something that is so important because although there are a lot of fashion shows everywhere, we're always seeming to cater to the audience of our own people. And what I'm trying to do is pull Native Star into the actual modern day retail space. so that we are not necessarily just selling to our own people, but we're pushing those boundaries, and we are becoming exposed to the non-native community, which to me, that's where my passion lies.
And with that, give me a profile of your average customer who comes into the store. Are they a non-native person, and what are they primarily looking for?
I would say 80% of the people walking in are non-native. We are 3 blocks from the convention center, and we're surrounded by probably, 30 or 40 hotels. I mean, we are mainstream tourism. So they are perplexed. They walk in, they see our big native star, and they come in, and the employees there welcome them and explain that everything in the store is made by Native American people. And that opens up a conversation. And so we get everything from people saying, I don't have any Native Americans in my state, which is kind of funny. And we take them over to the map and we identify the tribes that are still there. I had a woman, and everybody is really well-meaning, but a lot of people just don't know the history. And that's what we really love, is it's like not just selling them something, which a lot of times people will buy things because they kind of feel, I mean, I hate to say it, but the truth is they feel a little white guilt there, which we try to overcome and tell them, don't feel that way. It's all, we're here now, right? I mean, let's just move forward and do something good. But lots of stories. I could go on and on, but I don't want to take too much of your space here.
Well, you opened your first gallery almost 30 years ago, so you're no stranger to business. You've owned multiple businesses throughout your career. Is there a key to success that you often talk about?
There's many keys to success, and I think if you're going to go into the retail space, you've got to really be ready for. You got to have that muscle built. And I would say the success to me, I have a lot of young entrepreneurs, and they kind of come in 2 different packages. One is the creator. That's the entrepreneur that makes something and wants to bring it to market, and that's its own lane. But then there's the other person that's more like me. I don't create anything, but I'm an entrepreneur that creates space for those who want to bring things to market, whether it's the art world or whether it is, Native Star, which is fashion and jewelry and a bunch of other things. They're 2 different lanes. And I always tell young entrepreneurs, if you have never really commerced in the marketplace, the best thing you can do is go work for somebody who has done that and really understand the landscape. Because retail is no joke, and it is not for the faint of heart. You have really got to be able to be strong and ride these waves, because you're going to go up and you're going to go down financially, and you have to have the ability to maintain that space. Otherwise, you will fail, and then you won't succeed. It's a tough go.
Let's talk about your path to business success. Now, you struggled some as a teenager and a young woman. What did you learn from those experiences that has led to where you are today?
Well, I think a lot of us in my generation, I don't really know of any Native person that's my age that was born with a silver spoon in their mouth. This is before gaming. Unless maybe you came from an oil tribe, there really were not a lot of resources for us. And there was also, a lot of generational trauma. In my generation, parents were coming back from Vietnam. There were a lot of drugs and alcohol, a lot of problems on the res. And so I didn't live on the res full time. And I feel like that was actually an advantage to me, because I kind of was able to see things from different perspectives. But with that said, that rough upbringing gave me the ability to be able to pivot and adapt. So the ability to adapt to situations and still thrive, I think, has been the backbone of who we are as Native Americans. And so that rough upbringing gave me that strong backbone that, I know what it's like to go without food and shelter. And once you face that and you're able to push through, everything is pretty much uphill from there.
We heard Amy talk earlier about the challenging business climate that we're in now. What do you see in terms of the sentiment of customers compared to previous years?
Well, we're a startup, so I can only really compare it to my art gallery, which is next door. We had a rough couple of months for sure, and I totally agree with Amy. There's been a lot of upset within the world, which, affects people's wanting to spend. People kind of freak out, and they're just like, I'm not spending anything. But with that said, I will have to say that as a business person, we've been through 9/11, we went through COVID, we went through all of these things. For me personally, I don't allow myself to buy into whatever's happening in the world. I can't as an entrepreneur. I have to keep my mind focused that there's always an opportunity. And so within that, we've felt a little bit of a pinch, but I don't really let it affect it that much. And therefore, we carve out these opportunities. And whether it's online or people walking in or changing what we're offering, maybe making things a little bit more accessible, all those things, again, are part of being successful within the retail space.
Aside from Native Retail Business, you are a film and media producer. Tell us more about how those skills and those talents fit in with all the other work that you do.
Well, it's kind of one of those things that you get these ideas, you see these opportunities, and one of the opportunities I saw within the art world was the fact that artists were not interviewed during their lifetime. And then when they passed away, other people were telling their stories. So with the ability to film at a much less rate than it used to be, 25 years ago, I thought, let's just start interviewing these people. And that led to a whole new series called This is Indian Country, which is kind of like an Anthony Bourdain meets the tribes and, city Indians. And we meet people that are doing amazing things in amazing spaces. And then we just tell their story.
Okay, that's interesting because you say artists are often not interviewed during their lifetimes. And what I also find at times is they're not valued during their lifetimes. I even once talked to a gallery owner in Santa Fe, and she said to me, I only purchase dead artists' artwork. I only buy dead artists like pottery and things like that because that's when it's really worth a lot of money. What's your thought on that?
Well, I always have this joke, the dead artists are the easiest ones to deal with.
Jeez. But I get it, though, yeah.
It's a little bit of a joke because, sometimes artists can be a little difficult because they're artists and they see the world a different way. But, without joking, I think I love to represent living artists personally because I think there's a way that we work together collectively. And we evolve. And so businesses, I think, really benefit from the insight of artists, kind of like, Jeremy, who's going to be up next. I've learned a lot from him. And I've learned a lot from a lot of the artists. They see things in a different way, and then I can benefit from that. So, yeah, I prefer the ones that are alive.
All right. I do too, I think. 1-800-99-NATIVE. That's the number to join the conversation. Tell us what your thoughts are on Native retail businesses. If you go to Native retail businesses and you're shopping this time of year and there's something that you like about working with a Native business, we'd like to hear from you. 1-800-99-NATIVE. And Jeremy Arvizo, I imagine your ears are burning because we're sure talking a lot about you on this show today. So we need to bring you into the conversation now. Of course, you are an accomplished artist, designer, and entrepreneur. And this year you have an apparel collaboration with Indian Motorcycle. A few years ago, you had a similar partnership with the Phoenix Suns of the NBA. Tell me, what is driving the growth of your business and your designs? They're everywhere.
Oh, well, first off, I just want to give praises due to Creator for allowing me to be able to bestow these gifts on not just, my family and my loved ones and friends, but all of my supporters and the customers that keep this boat afloat. And it's incredible how far I've come, within 6 years. And it's very, it's one of those things that that there's a higher power when you can come from where I've come from to get where I'm at now. And it is really powerful. And so I don't take anything for granted, and every day that I'm above ground is a good day. And so, first off, I just want to shout out Ruth Ann and Amy both, because they're both two sisters that I've worked with on several occasions, and I respect them highly. And to be on a show with the two of them is I'm honored. So just wanted to put that out there first.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. We will talk more with Jeremy Arvizo, and we'll learn more about what it takes to succeed as a native retail business owner, and also just what goes into creating a really dynamic brand and being a designer, and what a person has to keep on top of in order to be successful in that line of work. But we will take a short break, and we do have phone lines open for any listeners who would like to join our conversation right now. Like I said earlier, maybe you're a native business owner, or maybe you are an aspiring native retail business owner, and you've got some questions about what it takes, especially right now. We're hearing from our guests that it's a little bit of a challenging time to be in business, especially a retail business. And they've got answers, they've got tips, they got insights that they can share with you as a listener. So the number is 1-800-996-2848. That's also just 1-800-99-NATIVE, a little easier to remember that by. And we've got producers are standing by in our Albuquerque, New Mexico studio waiting for you to call. And of course, we also have our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads, and our website, nativeamericacalling.com. And folks can always post, like, and comment on those platforms as well. So the important thing is that you engage with us. This is a community, Native America Calling. It's not just about the host and the guest. It's about you, the listener, as well. So join us, 1-800-996-2848.
Support from Clarkson Potter, publisher of Turtle Island, Foods and Traditions of the Indigenous Peoples of North America by Native American chef Sean Sherman. With ancestral and modern recipes, this cookbook showcases diverse foodways of the continent's regions.
Kaufman & Associates is a Native-owned and led consulting firm, supporting Native communities with culturally grounded solutions to shape Indigenous futures. More at kaufmaninc.com, KAUFFMANINC.com.
Thank you for listening in today to Native America Calling. We are hearing from Native retail business operators and artists today. If you'd like to join in this discussion, give us a call. Pick up your phone, 1-800-996-2848. That is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. One of our guests, Jeremy Arvizo, is on the line right now. He is actually traveling, and he is in New York. And Jeremy, as a designer, you have to keep on top of retail buying trends. It's not just about what you're feeling artistically. You have to really think about what people want, what consumers are thinking about. What do you think it is that draws people to your work?
That's a great question. I would say, premise of keeping your customers engaged is by communicating with them. You know, you want to know what they think about things. That means paying attention to their needs and wants. Looking at your sales, you know, what design is selling, what color, what size, and traveling and being open to comments, reviews, criticism, and really just listening and engaging. That is where the gold is. And I think most brands, people who are starting out, they just push things out and hope, you know, so that's good to get started, but you have to look at the data and make these data-informed decisions. Keep the emotions and feeling in your work. That's needed, but you'll want to make these business decisions with some data-backed information that'll help you be successful.
And Jeremy, how do you acquire that data? And you mentioned earlier communicating with people. How do you do that? Is it social media? Is it meeting them at shows? Where do you actually get that dialogue?
Both of those. Social media is probably the best way to look at metrics and insights. All you need is a phone, and you can gather all that information fairly easily. I find the insight I get at in-person markets, pop-ups, shows are also very good indicators of what people want, because you get that face-to-face connection and more insight. It's that kind of information is vital to any brand that's trying to break into not just fashion, but I mean art, design, shoes, jewelry, anything that has to do with creativity, music. It's really runs the gamut. Is just really paying attention to what the person that's going to be consuming this really wants. And I mean, the age range, what if they're, I hate to say it, but what gender they are, or if they don't even prefer to be labeled a gender, what is their economic status? I mean, these are all valid categories of who your customer, who your end buyer is, and they're all very important. Where they're located, what region of the United States, the world, it's very fascinating to find all of this out. And what I've done is worked closely with my bookkeeper to kind of get down to the nitty gritty of a lot of this stuff. And it's all numbers, and it's art in itself.
And drawing from this data and these communications that you have with different people who buy your work or admire your work, what do you see as the mood of retail buyers right now? We've been talking earlier about how it's a choppy period right now.
It is, and just like both of the prior guests had mentioned, it's all about pivoting and being able to adapt. Me, for instance, I have a few different businesses. One, I'm a brand identity designer, so I work with clientele that runs the gamut where I design for them, but I also have my own brands. I have the Original Landlords clothing and accessories brand, and then I have the Arviso 78 jewelry and what have you brand. So there's these little small pockets that I can go into and create multiple streams of income so that I'm not focusing or depending on just one. I'm able to diversify them and kind of have them all funnel into, me at the end of the day. And that requires wearing many hats and being able to be flexible and just like our ancestors were. I mean, if you look at history and how we survived, through the millennia, it was just that. We're very good at adapting to, certain anything really, the weather. I mean, that's why we move with the seasons. And I don't want to get too metaphysical with everything, but it's just how, looking at our ancestors is a great way of going forward.
Right. Well, I want to talk more about the work that you do for these major brands like Indian Motorcycle or the Phoenix Suns. Is it a different process in terms of that creative inspiration, you having to weave your own inspiration into that work for a client? How much different is that than when you're just creating for your own brand?
Well, it's a lot like what Amy had spoken about earlier, about how you're able to tap into your indigeneity, but there's compromise. So you have parameters that are there that you have to compromise with, and so your vision becomes our vision. You know what I'm saying? It's not just you, it's us. And so that part can be a little difficult for some creative people, but like I said, being flexible helps, and being able to meet somebody halfway is going to make this process run smoothly. So having an open mind about the way a project can go is going to benefit not just you, but the project. Because it's not, like you said earlier, it's not about you, it's not about the brand, it's about the people, the ones that are going to be buying it in the end, and who's going to be seeing it. So all of those you have to take into consideration. Not only that, but are you appropriating any ancestral knowledge or iconography or anything like that? You want to be super careful in doing so. I made a mistake like that earlier this year and got called out for it on social media, which was very humbling and also a little shameful. But I learned from that experience, and so now I'm very, very careful about anything that I share now. And it's I double check, and it's just one of those things that you have to do as an indigenous artist and designer.
You've attributed sobriety to catapulting your creativity in your business interests. Can you talk more about your recovery process and the lessons that you share with others?
I'd love to. It's something I'm very vocal about. I'm coming up on 6 years of sobriety from drugs and alcohol this coming February. And in the 6 years since I began my journey on the Red Road, my life has changed completely. And the way it works for me has been many levels. And I get asked this question all the time, which one works best? And there isn't a which way works best. It's all of them together. It's the physical, the mental, the emotional, the behavioral, the spiritual, and then you can start working on the financial. And it's all these things work together in tandem. But, you can't have one and not have the other. They all have to work in unison. And it's what our ancestors did long ago, and how we, like I said, how we survived millennia is because we were able to connect with all of those. And that's just how we were and how we always were. And we're living in an age now, in my opinion, where a lot of people like to call other people out about being colonized, but we're all colonized. We're all trying to remember how to be how our ancestors were. And so every single day you have a choice and a decision to make that, conscious effort to live like how we used to. And I really feel that's what sobriety and the Red Road is just remembering what it was to be Indian.
Jeremy, what's the best business advice you've ever gotten?
Never give up.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you share with others too? Like when people ask you, hey, what do I need to know? How can I get started?
All the time. I even have it tattooed on my right forearm. My friend Missy tattooed me and my sister that because it's a mantra that is, for me, something that I have to consistently tell myself because it's so difficult to move in some of the spaces that I work in because of the history of our people and the stereotypes like what Ruth Ann was discussing earlier. There's these preconceived notions about who or what we should be and what we should look like, etc. And I had a very great interview a couple weeks back talking about my appearance. Like if you see me walking around, you wouldn't think that I do what I do just dressed on, by my appearance. And but when I get in a room and I sit at a table and start talking, people just really change their perspective of how they look at me. And I love doing that. It's like probably one of my favorite things to do. It's really just blow people away by, what I do. And they don't expect that, especially dominant culture. Like you asked me what it was like to work with these corporations. When I step into the room, they're just like, oh, this is the guy. Okay. And then I start talking, and it just changes the whole vibe, and they listen. And so it's a responsibility that I take seriously, and one that I don't take lightly. And I know that I'm in a position of influence, and so it's one of those rare instances that has to be held with respect. And so I'm constantly trying to make sure that I'm in a as best state of mind to represent our people.
Mm-hmm. I hear that advice sometimes myself. Don't give up. It's important to remember that. But have you ever been in a situation where you really were close to giving up? Like, this is it. I'm done. I'm going to quit. I can't do this anymore. And you had to remind yourself, and you had to really claw back and take that advice to heart. Never give up.
All the time. As an entrepreneur, self-employed person such as myself, it's tough. There's times when you are, because I don't have a salary, per se. I create my own economy, and so I'm constantly working, you know what I mean? And you're constantly traveling, you're going to these shows, you're doing this and that, and sometimes you don't get paid, sometimes you won't get paid for there's like a net 30 or a net 60 account or whatever, and you're just like, you got to do all these other things in between to make sure that you can pay your bills and do whatever you got to do, and then it all adds up, and then you get something like, a year ago this month I lost my father, and so you get things like that. We lose relatives, and but then we have other things happen that make up for a lot of that. It's a give and take situation where when you're presented with an obstacle, you have to figure out a way to learn from it. And by not giving up and sticking to your guns, you're showing that resiliency that all of us have in us as Indigenous people. And it's just, it takes one person or a group of people, though, to, you know, have you recognize that you have it in you. And a lot of us just need to be reminded. So I do this thing I try to do it every day. It's called 90 Seconds to Success, where I constantly talk to my phone, and I give 90 seconds of just whatever it is I'm talking or thinking about that day. And I'm literally saying it for me to remind myself, but a lot of people listen, and it's just kind of turned into this thing. And so now I think that's one of the things that all of us should practice daily, is talking to ourselves and reminding ourselves just how great we are and where we come from and what our bloodline is. It's very important moving forward as Indigenous people to have love of self and love of our people.
All right, now I'm going to circle back around to our previous guest, but before I do, Jeremy, you stressed the importance of communicating with consumers, and I understand you've got a show coming up this weekend. Tell us a little bit more about it before we pivot.
Yes, no problem. It's the Shy Natives Holiday Hotties Market on Sunday in Phoenix, Arizona from 11 to 6 at the Boho Space, and that's in Phoenix. I'm actually dropping off some work today at Relative Arts, New York City in the Lower East Side. And I have work at the Native Star Boutique in downtown San Diego, and also the Eiteljorg Museum in Indiana, and on both coasts. So go check it out.
Wonderful. Yeah, you bet, Jeremy. Thank you so much. Let's go back now to Amy Dinette-Deal. And Amy, earlier you mentioned briefly your passion for skateboarding, and a few years ago you opened a skate park on the Navajo Nation. As I understand it, you're in the process of opening up a second skate park now. Tell us more.
Yeah, we're just in discussions about where that's going to be and exploring those ideas of how to manifest that in the next couple of years. And the other thing we've been doing is just distributing skateboard equipment, because I think that was such an important part of once you build the park, is just make sure the kids have the equipment they need. So this year we passed, I think we're over the 8,000 skateboard mark. So that's a lot of shredders out there on Navajo Nation. So hopefully the Olympics is not too far away.
And remind us again, what is it that drew you to skateboarding and just continues to keep you so engaged in not just the sport, but the subculture, the community of what skateboarding is?
Yeah, you mentioned 40 years. You kind of like let everybody know how old I am. But 40 years in the business as an active sportswear designer. And so for me, working in outdoor recreation is just a really great fit based on my tenure, based on my contacts. And it's just a sport that the kids love. Like, we get this opportunity to give away those skateboards during the Navajo Nation Fair, and I cannot tell you the joy on kids' face when they're like, oh my God, I get to skateboard. And so I just feel it's a great way to keep them both mentally and physically healthy in a sport that they're just like bubbling over with joy to be part of. And that's our commitment, is just to keep the little shredders going out there.
Well, right on, Amy. And I'll let you in on a secret. I mean, I've been at it for 40 years myself working. So we're both age affluent. We're age affluent Native people. That's the way to look at it. And really appreciate you taking the time today. All of our guests, unfortunately, we're out of time, so we're going to have to wrap it up. But Amy Dinette-Deal, thank you so much. Ruth Ann Thorne, thank you. And Jeremy Arvizo, thank you as well. We'll be back tomorrow with Cherokee cowboy and longtime rodeo announcer Randy Taylor. He will be our Native in the Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Sean Spruce. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Every family caregiver could use help finding the necessary resources to care for their loved one. The AARP Family Caregiver Resource Guide helps family caregivers access key programs, services, and agencies in their communities. A copy of the guide is available by calling 877-333-5885 or online at aarp.org/caregiverresources. AARP supports this show.
Support by the American Indian College Fund. The American Indian College Fund provides millions of dollars of scholarships to thousands of Native students every year. Tribal citizens of every age and experience are eligible. The deadline for applications is May 31st, and you can find everything you need to apply at collegefund.org. That's collegefund.org or by phone at 800-766-FUND. Education is the answer.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation, a Native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.